President Trump faces GOP rebellion over big beautiful bill, as deadline looms. In a high-stakes push to unify House Republicans, President Donald Trump made a personal appeal on Capitol Hill Tuesday morning, urging GOP lawmakers to rally behind his sweeping One Big Beautiful Bill Act. The 1,116-page legislative package, designed to cement Trump's domestic agenda, includes extending his 2017 tax cuts, boosting funding for border security and immigration enforcement, increasing military spending and raising the debt ceiling. However, the bill also proposes significant cuts to social safety net programs like Medicaid and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, SNAP, sparking fierce opposition from within the Republican Party. With House Speaker Mike Johnson's self-imposed Memorial Day deadline fast approaching, internal divisions threaten to derail the legislation. The bill, which cleared the House Budget Committee in a narrow 17-16 vote late Sunday night after a Friday setback, faces resistance from two key GOP factions, the hardline House Freedom Caucus and the moderate SALT Caucus, representing Republicans from high-tax blue states. During a nearly 2-hour closed-door meeting in the Capitol basement, Trump attempted to bridge the gap, but his forceful pitch failed to sway enough holdouts. The House Freedom Caucus, led by Representative Andy Harris, Republican Maryland, is demanding deeper and faster cuts to Medicaid, particularly pushing for immediate implementation of work requirements for able-bodied recipients, rather than the bill's current timeline of January 2029. Trump, however, urged conservatives not to mess with Medicaid, highlighting the political risks of slashing a program that provides health coverage to low-income and disabled Americans. According to the Congressional Budget Office, the proposed Medicaid cuts could result in over 8 million Americans losing coverage, with advocacy groups estimating up to 13 million could be affected by the $880 billion reduction. Critics, including Democrats and some moderate Republicans, warn that these cuts disproportionately harm low-income households, with the Penn-Wharton budget model estimating an average loss of $28,000 in lifetime value for working-age families in the bottom-income quintile. Meanwhile, the SALT Caucus, led by figures like Representative Mike Lawler, Republican New York, and Representative Nick LaLotta, Republican New York, is holding firm on demands for a higher cap on state and local tax, SALT, deductions, which allow taxpayers to write off local taxes from their federal obligations. The bill currently proposes raising the SALT cap from $10,000 to $30,000 for joint filers earning up to $400,000 annually, but SALT Caucus members argue this is insufficient. LaLotta, referencing the $30,000 cap proposed by House Ways and Means Committee Chair Jason Smith, Republican Missouri, called it a non-starter, and suggested a deduction of $62,000 for single filers and $124,000 for joint filers. "I'm not budging," Lawler declared, emphasizing the importance of SALT relief for constituents in high-tax states like New York and California. However, this push for larger deductions, which could cost up to $600 billion, has drawn criticism from fiscal conservatives who see it as a subsidy for wealthy blue state residents, further complicating negotiations. The internal GOP rift poses a significant challenge for Speaker Johnson, who can afford to lose no more than 3 Republican votes in the House due to unified Democratic opposition. The bill's estimated $3.8 trillion cost over the next decade, according to the Joint Committee on Taxation, has also raised alarms. Moody's Ratings recently downgraded U.S. debt, citing the bill's potential to add $4 trillion to the federal primary deficit. Representative Thomas Massie, Republican Kentucky, a vocal critic, warned that the legislation would balloon our debt, estimating that while the tax cuts may save families an average of $1,600 annually, the bill's policies could burden each family of 4 with $16,000 in interest payments on the national debt. Trump singled out Massie during the meeting, playfully ribbing him for his opposition, but Massie remained unmoved, stating it was too late to win his support. Despite the resistance, there were glimmers of progress. Representative Ralph Norman, Republican South Carolina, initially a firm no, softened his stance after Trump's speech, which he described as one of the best I've heard. Norman indicated he would review the bill further before deciding. Similarly, Representative Victoria Spartz, Republican Indiana, known for opposing fiscal measures, expressed cautious optimism about the need to grow the economy while addressing fraud in healthcare programs. However, the consensus among holdouts remains that the bill is not ready for a floor vote. Representative Andrew Garbarino, Republican New York, warned that without a SALT fix and resolutions to Medicaid and SNAP concerns, the bill could face a wave of no votes. Johnson remains optimistic, declaring that failure is not an option, and framing the bill as a chance to make Trump the most consequential president of the modern era. He plans to continue negotiations with small groups of lawmakers throughout the day to address sticking points, including Medicaid work requirements and green energy tax credits from Biden's Inflation Reduction Act, which hardliners want phased out immediately. The bill's fate hinges on these talks, as conservatives demand steeper spending cuts to offset the tax breaks, while moderates push for concessions that could alienate fiscal hawks. The rushed timeline: lawmakers had less than 72 hours to review the 1,116-page bill, has drawn criticism for its lack of transparency and haste, reminiscent of the secretive process behind Trump's 2017 tax cuts. Democrats, led by House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, have decried the bill as extreme and toxic, particularly for its cuts to Medicaid and SNAP, which they argue prioritize tax breaks for the wealthy. The Penn-Wharton budget model notes that high-income households could gain an average of $30,000 from the tax cuts, underscoring the distributional impact. As the Memorial Day recess looms, the GOP faces a tightrope walk to reconcile its factions. The House Freedom Caucus's push for immediate Medicaid reforms and the SALT Caucus's insistence on larger deductions create a Rubik's Cube problem, as Representative Byron Donalds, Republican Florida, put it, where satisfying one group risks alienating another. With the Senate poised to craft its own version of the bill, further negotiations await. For now, Trump's vision of a big, beautiful bill remains on shaky ground, testing the GOP's ability to deliver on his ambitious agenda.